All right, so we're live right now. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Gordon, and I'm the founder at watchingcode.com. And what you're tuned in to right now is office hours. So, we have office hours every week. The point is, a big problem with online courses is there's no one to ask for help. And so, office hours is a way to fight against that. So, if you're stuck with anything at Watching Code, then you can just ask me and I'll help you get through the material. So that's the point. Before we go into that, I just have a few quick announcements. The first one is about the Facebook group. So all the kind of announcements about that are related to the community, like these office hours events and stuff, they're posted on the Facebook group. So in case there are schedule updates and that type of thing, you want to join that to keep up to date. A word of warning is when you join, they're gonna ask you, it's gonna ask you 3 questions. You have to answer those questions. If you don't answer them, I automatically reject you. If you give me a half-ass answer, I'll also automatically reject you. So there's a question like, how did you find out about watching code? If you say something like, I found it, I'm gonna reject you. So actually answer the questions. I don't want trolls in the group. The second thing is if you're asking a question today, you want to call in. That's the best way to ask your question. If you ask your question on the YouTube live stream, if you're watching the live stream right now, I'm probably going to miss your question. So if you have a question, you have to call in. The way to get this link is on the YouTube live stream. Look at the YouTube description, and in the description, you'll get a link to this document, and then you'll be able to get here. So call in if you have a question. So new stuff, Practical JavaScript is fully captioned right now. So now you can hit there's a CC button at the bottom of the video for closed captions. And so that's awesome. Finally got that done. And I'm really excited about that, especially for people that have trouble hearing, or a lot of people are international at watching code. So English can be difficult. It can be harder to understand for some people whose English is not their first language. So I'm really excited about that. And the intent is to end up captioning the entire, all the content at Watching Code. So I started with Practical JavaScript just because that's the beginning stuff. And then I intend to caption the premium content as well. So you can look forward to that. Accounting.js 24 will be out either the end of this week or early next. So you can look forward to that if you're a premium subscriber. And that's it for me. So from here, I'll just go ahead and just answer questions from you all. Let's start with Erica since you were first.
I actually don't have any questions. I just am, where am I? I am working on CUMVC rendering with templates right now. I just wrapped up earlier today the edit in edit mode, edit key up, and I probably would have had questions about that if I hadn't watched the video 3 or 4 times, because that's a complicated video, I think. But
I think so too.
yeah, the abort problem. The abort portion was where I really struggled with, but I think I understand it pretty well now, and how it connects with updates. So yeah, I think I'm good.
Awesome. Nice work. What's been the hard part about all the updating logic? Is it just that it's a lot of stuff, or is there anything particular that makes it hard?
No, I don't. There's nothing particular. I think it's just new syntax, like jQuery wrapped, like that's new, and then the data, the a lot of method chaining, and I think it's just like a lot of things are longer. So like for the editing mode, you have eTarget and then closest li and then add class editing and then find and then edit, and that's just a really long line in that to dissect piece by piece in that code. So just breaking it down piece by piece has been the hardest part, and then remembering that it's all one line again, like bringing it back to focus, like, hey, this is all one thing at the end of it. So yeah.
Right. Wait, last week was your question. Were you the one that asked the question about training?
I was.
Okay, got it. So it's good that you understand that, since you're seeing it over again.
Yeah, that was my question. And I think that's helped me understand the methods more.
Okay, awesome, cool. Well, great work.
Thank
and
you.
then if you think of any questions, let me know.
I will.
Okay, cool. Next, we will do. I think Faith, you were in really early.
Yeah.
Hey, where are you at with the content, and do you have any questions about any of this stuff? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now. Oh, now
no, actually, I don't have any questions. I just started practical JavaScript, and I'm on version 4. And everything really makes sense right now. This is like the 3rd or 4th course I tried on JavaScript, and it's so much better. It's so much, because they're building something and it makes sense. So I just wanted to join the office hours to see what it was like.
It's funny that makes sense is I don't know, just when I listen to this, it's funny that makes sense is a compliment, because you would think that that's kind of the bare, like everything should make sense.
Well, I'm actually coming from, I'm a professor of education. And so I have a doctorate in teaching and learning and in language development. And so I've, when I found your course, I was like, yeah, this is exactly learning theory. I was like, everybody sort of missed that educational psychology of learning theory and learning styles. So it's been great. I'm not sure I understand what's in the membership courses yet. So I can't decide like if that's appropriate for me. I know I've read the descriptions, but I'm still new. So I don't know that I don't know if I belong in those classes.
Right.
Do it.
Well, it depends. I mean, like I'm studying to be a front-end developer, so I don't know, like, if that's the membership covers that.
But I have 2 questions for you. I'll get to the, I guess does premium make sense question. But you said that like a lot of learning theory and stuff came out for you. Like, I'm not familiar with that stuff, so I'm wondering what you meant by that.
A kinesthetic learning style is a style where you need to like manipulate. You can't really be static when you're learning. You have to transform the learning so that it builds muscle memory, basically. And if you're just copying and pasting things and you're not building something, you're not really doing that. You're not transforming the information. So at first you'll explain let's say you did the whole turkey sandwich thing for the function. Well, okay, if you just stopped it there, then there's nothing kinesthetic about it. We didn't transform the information. But then we make the to-dos, and every version we learn something new, but we apply it in a practical way. So we're getting like auditory learning and visual learning through the videos, but it's that kinesthetic learning that's key. It's the transformation.
Wait, what does kinesthetic mean? Like what?
It means like doing something. It basically means doing something.
Okay, sorry.
Doing something, like in doing something isn't just copying and pasting. Doing it is transforming the material.
It's like more, it's just like active and not just passive.
Exactly. Okay. But it's key that there's the distinction between active and passive. Passive would be just copying code. I've done videos where we watch the person do the code, then we write the code, but we haven't transformed it, So when we transform it to make the to-do list function and work, and we update it and we keep doing new versions, it's really like embedding it in your brain. It's so good. I love it. It's really, really good. And I keep a blog about a professor's perspective on learning to code. And so your whole thing is going to be a huge subject of conversation for me.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to talk more about it, I'd be interested.
Oh yeah, because like there's all sorts of like multiple intelligences that come into play. There's a lot of ed psychology. So yeah, so that's why I'm like wondering if the membership really would work for me, because I'm not really 100% sure what it's covering.
Right. But so I think it's interesting you mentioned the passive versus, I guess, active, but because you could say that practical JavaScript is passive too, because I think when most people think of, like, I get this question a lot, which is, why aren't there any exercises? Like, why aren't there problem sets and that kind of thing? Because I think people think of that as active, and maybe I did too, and so I almost thought it's interesting to hear you say that it's active, because I almost thought of it as more of a passive experience.
Well, it's both. Like in the beginning, in each section, when you teach us something, we're just learning, oh, okay, so a function is this and an array has that. But then it's active, because then we're transforming what we learned into an application, which is the to-do. So it starts passive, but then it becomes active, and we've transformed the information. So it's very high level thinking. And a little bit you kind of touch on metacognition, which is like thinking about your thinking. And you just did that when you posted the whole article about asking questions. And that's all metacognition. That is thinking about your thinking process. It's a very difficult skill.
I see. Interesting. Huh. Okay. I'll have to think about more of that stuff. Maybe I'll follow up. I'll follow up with
well,
you.
Anytime you want to talk about it, that's my field. So.
Okay. So you had a question, which is like, is premium? Does it make sense for you? So I have this kind of probably not very good explanation of what it is.
Yeah, I read through that. I wasn't sure.
And so the problem with these explanations, and the problem with explanations and curricula for all courses, I think, is that if you don't know the field, this is kind of just gibberish, right? It's like, what is that? 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 All the way down. So I recognize that. So that's probably your experience. But I think the part to emphasize is really I know, unfortunately it's at the bottom. But it's really what the focus and the common threads are across the entire curriculum, including practical JavaScript. I don't think of practical JavaScript and premium as two courses. It's just that's just the sequence of, you do practical JavaScript first, it's requirements, and then you continue on. But the common threads across all the lessons are these kind of really core, like boring skills in software engineering that are really about how to make software, and not it's not gonna, like, I'm not gonna talk about this front-end technique and that front-end technique, at least not as a goal. Like we might happen upon those things, but we'll never, like, I never work back from like, oh, these are the things you need to know to do this job, and then therefore I'm gonna go like teach you those things. It's more like, what are the way I think of it is, what are the skills every great programmer has, and I'll teach you those, and then everything else just works out. And that's kind of my approach. And so those topics are, again, it's weird because maybe I failed to do this. I don't really explain like why these are important. But these are things that beginners don't really maybe even know what they are. And even if they knew what they are, they wouldn't think they're important.
Well, beginners don't have a vocabulary yet. So a lot of things that may seem pretty self-explanatory to you or make sense to you, a beginner doesn't have a lexicon of words, to make meaning of maybe those kinds of concepts.
Right. What kind of goes into this is this interview that I did on the New Stack. And so if people are watching the live stream later, you can just go to this URL, but I'll paste it for you in the Google Hangout.
Oh, great.
It explains more of the kind of philosophy, because I think you really have to understand like what I'm trying to do and the goal.
Yeah.
Because the topics, if I list them out, they're still not going to make any sense, and so I think this will be most useful.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are there any other? Well, you didn't have a question, I guess, right?
No, not right now. Maybe next week.
Okay, cool. Oh, I have a question for you. What are things that you think I'm not doing well or could improve on?
Oh gosh, I'm not prepared for that. I should have taken notes. No. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that because I'm kind of not in that headspace right now. I am having some problems with what is it? Plunker?
Clicker.
It doesn't seem to like my computer very much. So I've had to still work in the console or go into my text editor. But I'm working through it, and that's not your fault. So I don't really have a comment for that. I'll think about it for next week.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think that's super helpful too, because I think I always tell people my work is always like a C or D, and I always look at it like that. So I'm always thinking about how I can get better. I don't think and nothing's ever good enough for me.
That's a good way to think, and you're always improving.
Yeah, but it's not always good. But but yeah, okay. Well, thanks a lot, Faith, and it's good to meet you. And
you too.
And look forward to hearing more from you and your thoughts and stuff.
Sure.
Okay, so next, let's give preference to new people today. So Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm kind of like Faith. I don't really have any questions right now. Just kind of came to see what everyone else had to ask and to discuss and everything. I think I just started the interlude between version 7 and 8 tonight, I think, with all of the debugger stuff. And I have to say that I've taken several other classes, paid and free, and read some books on JavaScript, and nothing has mentioned the debugger keyword before. And it blows my mind that that's been left out, because it just makes so much sense in it. I feel like it's going to make coding from here on out so much easier when it comes time to do things on my own. So I was, again, just blown away that I hadn't learned that after months and months of trying to understand JavaScript. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think it reminds me of what Faith and I were just talking about, which is I think a lot of other instructors come at teaching from what are the surface skills that you would need, like almost like what's listed in a job description. And if you approach teaching like that, you miss all the important stuff. And then you teach those buzzwords at a very shallow level. Like if you instead ask the question, what do all good developers have in common? You end up teaching very different things. And surprisingly, you might teach things that no one else ever teaches, which is always a shock to me as well. I think I had the same reaction that you did when instead of going to other places and wondering why is this the only place that does it? When I was going through stuff, I'd be like, why does no place do this?
Yeah.
It's like a slightly different, but the same observation. And I think it's because the goal's the wrong goal. I think that's because I think, a lot of places I want to teach you full stack. And I think if that's your goal, meaning like front end, back end, and the latest version of JavaScript, whatever, I think if you come through that goal, you're going to miss all the important stuff, because, stuff that you use for front end today is not going to be used in even 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary, right? So if that's the world you live in, then why are you doing that?
Yeah, like Ruby, for example, or Ruby on Rails.
Well, I mean,
it's slowly fading out, and I think like Node is taking its place from
But
what
that-
I've seen
yeah.
in the Atlanta job market, almost no one is needing Ruby developers anymore, and they all want Node.js developers.
Right, but at the same time, you can be a great programmer and continue to do Ruby stuff, or
Right.
Java or even C++ and really work on old software. And it doesn't mean you're any less of a developer if you don't pick up the latest things. So I think that reverse, I try to emphasize that's really it doesn't matter what latest stuff you know, because if
Yeah.
the really good developers can always pick things up very quickly, and it's not that big of a deal. And so I'm trying to push that attitude, because I think not just beginners, but I think a big reason that the beginners are, at least the industry is stuck on learning new things, regardless of the utility of learning those new things, is that, well, number one, it's more profitable. I think if you can always churn out a new course, you can always make more money. So that's a very hard thing to fight against. But two is that experienced developers are just as scatterbrained as beginners often, and sometimes more, because I don't know, they're bored at their job and they just want to like do new stuff, or or they just it's just fun. It's fun to always do new stuff, but there are diminishing returns to doing the same thing 20 times or in 20 different ways. Like, maybe I think I said this last week, maybe learning how to do something 2 or 3 different ways is useful, but learning how to do the same thing 10, 20 different ways over 5 years of your career is not the most useful thing you can do. It's
Right.
probably better to learn actually new stuff. But I don't know, that's hard. And I think in a lot of ways, learning a new framework is easy, and it's almost like the fast food of learning, right? It's like, it's easy. Like, I'm going to learn how to show boxes on a web page in a different language, and I'm going to show it now in like a new style of programming. Then I'm going to have boxes on a page in yet a different language, and then in Elixir, like Dustin mentioned. But it's like, you just are showing boxes on a page, learn how to do something new. Like, why not do that? I'm not interested in 30 ways of showing boxes on a page. And I don't think that actually makes, it doesn't help you unlock your potential.
Right. Exactly.
It's not a truly interesting task. So that's my view on things. That was a tangent. So I guess you didn't have a question either, right? You're just, I think.
Nope. Just kind of here to see what other questions everyone else has, and if they're ahead of me, things that I can look forward to, and maybe have a question answered that I may end up having to ask at some point.
Yeah. So because this is continuing on the same theme, I'll answer a question from the live stream from Dustin. So I'll share my screen. Will future courses cover modern JavaScript, for instance, ES6, ES7, ES8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, to infinity? Also, what syntax and features are currently in the courses? And then the same question, not trying to get off topic, but do you have any thoughts on Elixir? I don't even know what that is, so I have no thoughts on it, but that probably means it's not super important for a beginner to know. So I don't know what that is. Will future courses cover modern JavaScript? Maybe, but I also don't think that's important. So I think if you're just assume, so what I always tell people is I try to really just not, I think telling people that, yeah, that don't worry, that's covered, is actually encourages the wrong kind of desires, because I don't think it matters at all. So I always say, assume that it's not covered. And if you if you feel good about it, then take the courses. If that's not okay with you, then don't. So just assume no, is what I like to say. And I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but I think it's a good way to think about it. Assume no. Okay. Next person is I'll go with Sherry.
Oh no, I'm continuing the theme too. I don't really have a question. I just
Okay.
popped on to hear everyone else's question.
Cool. Do you have any any thoughts on the discussion so far? It's
I
there's a
do
theme.
actually. You know what? First of all, I actually would like to respond to Faith's conversation from earlier. I think I don't know for sure what you're looking to accomplish, but I know you said you were looking to learn front end development, and I think that the way Watching Code is set up, there's a reason that everything is in the order that it's in. And so I think that by doing practical JavaScript, you get a feel for how Gordon teaches, and a lot of the stuff moving forward in the premium is all building off of things that you first learn in practical JavaScript. I think that a lot of stuff that is covered in premium wouldn't make sense if it wasn't first covered in practical JavaScript. So that's kind of my take on things. And I think in addition to learning things new that kind of like the way we do it in practical JavaScript, also being able to learn from looking at existing code and being able to break it down and understand the code that's written is also a very important aspect that Gordon covers very well. Because if you even speak to many developers, a lot of people are working with existing code base. They're not writing the code necessarily from scratch. And I was just even having a conversation last week with some developers who were saying like they found it hard to go into a job where there's an existing code base that they're having to work with, and it's because it's their code base. It's not like they could easily Google and get answers for things. And I think that Gordon's approach really helps people break down both working with existing and writing from scratch and understanding. And I guess this isn't just specific to Faith, but to anyone. But what I was going to say to her is if she does want to learn front end, then I too have done many different courses along the way, and I've done a boot camp. And I can honestly say that Watching Code is the best course for learning that I've come across. And I've recommended it to many, many people. And Gordon is not paying me to say that, but I just believe it. So that was just my comment on that. And then the one other thing I will comment on is just the other question you had about ES6. I know that's obviously a very important thing for a lot of jobs, but as I've been learning ES6, I realized my experience, and I've heard a lot of very experienced developers saying that with ES6, it forces you to really understand JavaScript instead of, I think I've heard a lot of developers say that they had become so used to depending on jQuery and other libraries that what they realized from learning ES6 is they actually were relying so much on jQuery that there was a lot of the core stuff of JavaScript that they forgot. And I think that that's the other thing that comes into play when learning ES6 is that you really do need to have a solid understanding of JavaScript in general, because otherwise it just won't make as much sense.
Right. Yeah, I think the reason that so first there, Sherry, thanks for your thoughts and stuff. I really appreciate it. But to touch on what you just said about ES6 is that the reason I don't care about ES6 at all and is because number one, if you know ES5 really well, you can learn ES6 in minutes. It takes minutes to learn it. And I don't think people realize that. But the second thing is ES6 forces you to understand ES5. You cannot understand ES6 without understanding ES5. And so again, like when you point to like the one thing that actually matters, it's not ES6 at all. It's actually ES5. The reason ES5 is the thing that everyone needs to know is it's just what's been around forever, and it's the foundation of the language. The language grew in usage and popularity in ES5 form. And so what ECMAScript, the JavaScript standards committee has tried to do in ES6 and 7 and future versions of the language is it's adding conveniences on top of the language we have today. And so if you want to even understand what those conveniences are doing, you need to understand the language that we have. You need to understand the language we have today very well. So for example, like the class keyword in ES6 is a shortcut on things that you can do in ES5. So you can do it today. You don't need to use ES6 to get the same thing done. But if you don't know what ES6 is actually doing for you, then you really don't understand ES6. So at the foundation, it's still understanding that the current version of JavaScript, not the future versions. So it really is in my mind, and I look at things in a kind of extreme way, probably more extreme than most people. It just doesn't matter to me. And if you sequence things in the right way and you teach students the most important thing at the right time, then they'll have the same viewpoint as well. When you teach students ES6 first, I think what happens, and I've seen this a lot, is that the students end up feeling like they have all these holes and they don't understand what ES6 is doing, and it's because that would make sense because they don't. So I think to teach it in that sequence, ES6 first, or and not explain the way the language, kind of the older version works, is a mistake. And to me, it doesn't make sense. And I think in the industry, you'll find that my view is a unusual view, but I'm not trying to have an argument with people. I don't really care to do that. I've just seen what works, and I think sequencing the way I have just works better. I think the big problem is a lot of people that are teaching or giving recommendations and giving advice that haven't actually seen a lot of data about what works and what doesn't when they teach. So I think that's a big part of it as well. So that part is, I think, just really kind of silly. And I feel kind of sad that beginners waste so much time thinking about this, what I truly think is just BS. Like, it really doesn't matter. And I'd wish that they'd spend more time actually learning versus choosing this version or that version, or even the language at all. Like, at the end of the day, I don't even think it matters if you learn JavaScript or another language. It really doesn't matter. You need to learn how to program. And if you learn on another language, that's totally fine. So I think what we've pinpointed is that for beginners, one of the biggest problems that holds you back and has nothing to do with programming is to separate, like, just signal from all the noise and all the advice that sends you in a direction and convinces you that things that don't matter are important. So I think what I'd like to say is, if you're listening, that when you hear advice from people, be very skeptical and think about whether you actually need that new thing. Think about whether you actually need to do this, whether you need to learn the latest version of everything. And just to give you another example, so you can see the principle that I follow, is I think the worst use of time is learning text editors. And so, for example, there are popular text editors like Vim and Emacs. So if you've heard of them, I'm sorry. If you haven't, then don't worry about it. Just ignore it. But what happens is people spend so much time learning about shortcuts to type their code when they can't even code. It's like, why are you doing that? Because they're doing it because some person that has more experience than you has an ego problem, and they feel like really self-important, and they feel like they have credibility because they can use this thing that no one knows how to use, and it takes a lot of commitment and investment to use but has no real benefit. And then they're pushing that ideology onto you. And that's happening every day, thousands of times a day, and it just doesn't matter. To put this into context, it's true. I think if someone very good at Vim or Emacs, and if they were going against me and they had the same typing speed as me, they might be able to type marginally faster than me. Marginally. You might, and maybe in some cases, I might be faster or the same. So at the end of the day, they may have like a 5% speed advantage on me, but typing is not the limiting factor in programming. If it is for you, if you're an amazing programmer, everything that you have in your head just translates perfectly into code, and then the only thing left you have is to optimize on typing speed, then you can do that. But nobody's there. So what really happens is a lot of people just waste a lot of time. They literally waste their lives learning stuff that doesn't matter because someone else said it is important when it's not important. And so like this like really silly thinking happens at every single level with every single technology, and not just in programming. I'm sure it's in every field, but I think in programming it's particularly bad. So sorry, that was a rant. Sorry, Sherry. Sherry, are you there?
I'm here. Nope, that was fun.
Oh, so I get so annoyed. And it's frustrating to have this conversation, and because what I see is not people making silly decisions, just wasting their lives, right? If you spend like 20 hours learning something that doesn't matter, you could have, even if you watched 10 movies, I think it's a better use of your time, or took like more naps during the day. I think it's a better use of your time. There's so many better things to do than to learn things that don't matter.
I think to your point, the problem is that there's so much noise out there, and you can speak to 10 different developers who maybe are doing 10 different things and working with different languages and different frameworks. And you're always going to hear different information as to what's important. Because I've heard people say that, they had to know Vim for their job, or they had to know their jobs now. It's that you have to know ES6. And I think that there's always going to be the different things that you hear from people. And I think you even did an interlude video on this. It really is a matter of kind of getting through the clutter and the noise and figuring out what is most important. Because there's always, I think as developer, it's a constant learning process, right? There's always going to be something new to learn and something that you need to know that you don't know. And, to your point earlier, there's a few years ago, Angular was the must know, thing before React. And then that came and went so quickly. And so it's just, it's always going to be something. And I think that it's even somewhat of a learning process getting through the clutter and the noise, because you're always going to hear it from everyone else.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think what I try to do with the lessons is I try to instill that viewpoint, because it's shockingly so rare. But I don't know, it's still very shocking to me. It's kind of like Josh, what you said, like I don't know why people don't do this, and this is my version of that. why is the world so weird and silly? But yeah. Okay. Well, thanks thanks for joining, Sherry, and thanks for your input. It's really valuable to hear students and what they think about different things and so on. So I really appreciate it. But Sherry, what are you working on right now?
I actually, I've been going back and implementing different things. So today I was actually revisiting all of the regex stuff and writing some stuff out that had to implement using regex to find things. Like more, not the stuff specific from anything that, we wrote or did in Premium, but just I like applying a lot of the learnings in a different setting and a different situation, so having to do it from scratch. So that was kind of what I was doing today. I wanted to revisit the regex stuff and kind of work with it a bit more. So kind of finding like the working with the positive or negative look aheads and kind of searching and replacing within text and things like that. That's actually what I was working on quite a bit more recently.
Got it.
Cool. I like to go back to different areas along the way that we did in practical in Premium, and then apply it in settings outside of what we had written and what we worked on, because I feel like sometimes you kind of get used to just seeing it or knowing about it in things that we did for at a length of time, and but I feel like I want to make sure that I can implement and apply something when it's not in that same setting, when it's in a different setting, or how I would go about using it.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, it's good that you're doing that. Yeah, I think one thing you might want to look at is looking at some of the issues in Accounting.js. So on the GitHub repo, there are issues, and you could see if you can fix any of those. Like a couple students have done that, and that's a really good way to, of course, cement the lessons to actually work on that library. So maybe that'll be good. That could be something if you're not already working on a project. Yeah, cool.
All right, I'll take a look. I know that some people a while ago had submitted some stuff, so I think I never even took a look at other things that had come up.
Yeah, it could be cool just to see the pull requests that they made. Because so for example, Gustav, remember with toFixed, I showed you a way you could rewrite it so that it worked a little bit better. Gustav took that strategy and actually implemented that code and submitted it to the project. So
and they merged it in?
They merged it in, yeah.
Wow.
So
all right, I'll take a look and see.
Yeah. And then James has made a couple of pull requests as well.
Well, that's it. I figured it's all been updated from all the Watching Code students.
Exactly. Which is pretty funny. So yeah, cool. Awesome. So next we got, I think Jack was next.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, I actually do have a question on content. So.
Okay. Sweet.
Although I wanted to ask, first of all, just following up on the conversation here, what do people define as being a front-end developer? I don't really understand. People talk about front-end versus I see people come into your program and they're talking about, oh, I've been doing front-end for developer for 2 years, but I'm weak on JavaScript. Therefore, I need to, delve into that some more. What does a real front-end developer in the world do, and what is he not doing, or she?
That's a hard question. I think it varies a lot depending on the company, but mostly it's like anything that runs in the browser. If you write code that runs in the browser, then you're probably a front-end developer. I think the problem is that a lot of people become programmers, and this is not specific to front end, but they become developers and they're self-taught, and they just learn through hodgepodge of tutorials, and then they feel like, Jack, what you just said, which is I can't remember how you phrased it, but like I feel like I need to improve my JavaScript or whatever. So I think there are a lot of people in that case. They're already working as developers, but they still feel like they don't feel like they have control over what they're doing. Like,
right. Well,
I think the way to almost the way that like what's happening in the mind of someone that would say something like that is that they might be able to get something to work, but it often feels like it was by accident. And that's very an uneasy feeling. So it feels like you don't have control. It feels like you're really dependent on Googling for things and then hoping, and then even if you get something to work, you're not sure why it works. Like I think a lot of developers are in that state, and that's not a good state to be in. So I think that's probably what you're hearing when people say I'm a front end developer or I'm a developer already, but I don't feel like comfortable.
Right. I just know from my own experience as a student, you know, that learning some basic HTML and CSS, I think you get a false sense of, oh, I get what's going on here, even with just kind of, because at a limited exposure to that, you feel like you grasp it, you know what you're doing and stuff. And then you hit, you know, JavaScript, and all of a sudden you hit this wall of, you know, I really don't know what I'm doing. And that's, at least that's what happened to me.
Right.
But anyway, on to the question. This is following up on my looking at the To Do MVC program and trying to understand that one modification we were talking about before on why, you know, if you had taken everything out of the edit field, why when you push escape, you wouldn't return to what data you had in there before. And in playing around with that, what I'd been trying to do at first was try to take what was up in the edit key up function of if e dot which equals enter key or escape key.
Wait, Jack, 1 second. Can you share your screen? It's just so we can follow along.
Yeah, I can. Do I need to turn my camera on to do that, or just click on share screen?
Just share screen. You don't need
All
to.
right.
You don't
All
need your
right.
camera to be on.
All right. So I turn to our screen. See if that.
Just because, like, honestly, I forgot. I don't remember how the code
Yeah,
works.
yeah, no problem.
So I had to see it again.
All right. So it says I'm sharing now.
Yep, I can see it.
All right. So edit key up function, which is the event listener for that is key up, obviously.
Wait, so remind me how this works again. So what's the relationship between edit key up, and update? I don't remember.
Well, edit key up is only affecting your view, and what it's really saying is if you
which one runs first? Like when you double
edit key up.
Edit key up. Okay, so
and then focus out is for update, which that's actually I actually had a follow-up question on this too, which is
wait. So can you scroll up to the bind section?
Yeah.
So edit key up is bound to key up.
Key up.
And then double click is bound to edit. So double click would actually
focus out. Focus out. Next one down. For edit. Goes to update. Right?
No. So
right here.
No. So double click is bound to the edit method in line 61.
Right.
The edit you see in, and this is why this code's confusing. The edit you see in 63 dot edit is the class, I think, right?
Sorry, let me go down here.
It's the CSS class. So the first thing that's going to run is edit. Yeah. So the edit's going to get a double click event, and then it's going to grab the specific input and focus on it and change the class to editing mode. Okay.
Okay.
And then what runs next after that?
Edit key up.
So go back to the bind events. Yeah. So edit key up is bound to key up on edit. And then update is okay. And then update is when you focus out. All right.
Correct.
Okay. So just go back. Sorry, this is
This
is super confusing. So Erica was talking about this too.
Yeah, and you know, I'm kind of jumping to the second question, which I'll say it now just so I don't forget about it. But part of my problem on understanding this is I've tried to, you know, as I've gone through this using debugger, or I can't seem to, if I do escape or hit return, it seems like that invokes the update function as well. So I'm confused as to what the definition of focus out is, because it seems like that also includes the keystrokes of, you know, keying up on enter or escape.
Yeah, so focus out, the focus out event will run whenever you lose focus on an input. And so you can do that in many ways. You can click off of it. You can hit a button. I mean, there's certain keys that will do it. So there are many ways to lose focus. There's not one way to do it.
Understand. And it seems to me that if you do escape key and enter key, both of those in this app will invoke focus out. Because if you do either one of those, and you've got, and you're, you know, and you're in, you know, you're over here on the, you know, and you do update.
Wait, so put a breakpoint in 172.
Yeah.
And then
Hit escape, and it does. Sorry, go ahead.
Let's look at all of them. So can you put a breakpoint at edit key up and edit as well, in just the first line? And we'll see. And also, this is to refresh my memory too, but also if other people watching can see how this logic works. So I guess we're first going to trigger the edit one, right? So double click the K. Sweet. Okay. That's going to change the input to add the editing class. So you can step over that. And then so it just looks different. And then it's going to focus. So step over that. And I guess you can, step over that. And then you can hit play. So there we are. So we're focused on the input. And then if you type something, that will trigger edit key up, right? Correct. So type like KG or something. Okay, cool. So then every single time you type a letter, so this is the thing which is where you would potentially look for what key was pressed, right?
Correct. And in both instances here, it's not going to find that was what was hit. So it's just going to end up exiting out of this function.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, it runs the function, but it won't. None of the if statements are going to be true. So,
okay,
right.
So
because all I do, I'm not hitting enter key, and I'm not hitting the escape key. I hit the K.
Right. Got it. So then the enter key will just basically lose focus, and then escape key will add a data attribute abort true and then lose focus.
Correct.
Okay. And then so what letter do you want to type?
Well, let me let me do this one again with the edit key up. Sorry, edit key up, and I'll actually do escape.
Okay.
Let me get it out of this. Sorry.
No worries, you can take your time.
Yeah. So escape.
So wait, did you hit escape?
I hit escape, so it's going to jump down to there. Now it's going to run this, and it does it.
Okay.
It's going to add the jQuery data functionality, which is actually, this is really kind of getting to my first question for you. Really, is that you know, when I read it, it looks like it's, to me, it first seems like it's the equivalent of a property being set.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. It's just like adding a abort property onto the element. So
but I can't find this property anyway the way you would a normal property. It's like
because it's because it's a jQuery thing. So
okay.
So it's not on the raw HTML element.
Yeah, and I looked. I matter of fact, I did even the $0 on the HTML. It's like it's just not. There's no data point there. You know.
So one way you can look at this is I guess just play through, and then we can just hit play. And then let's exit out of it, or just hit escape now to open up the console. Yeah, if you just hit escape, and pull the console up.
Okay.
So here's how you can play around with it. Go to the Elements tab. And then let's just click on, let's click on the footer.
Okay.
Just click on it, yeah. All right, so now you can access the footer in the console. Type in $0. Okay, yeah, hit enter. Okay, so that's the footer. So you can grab the element you clicked on using $0.
All right.
Then wrap it in jQuery. So take, I guess it'd be run the dollar function and then put in $0. I know that's confusing. Yeah. So there you get the jQuery graph element. And save that to a variable. I guess you can call it like a jQuery footer or something. Or dollar footer would be the
Dollar footer?
Yeah. That would be the
Okay.
convention in this code base.
But
Equals
dollar. That's not jQuery though in this case. Or
No,
is
no,
it?
it's just the naming
Just a
convention.
dollar.
So you
Alright,
know
alright,
it's
alright.
yeah, just so you know it's a jQuery element. So then you can do run the dollar function and then pass in $0. Okay. So now type $footer and you should have the jQuery graph element. And then type $footer dot data just to see if it exists. It will autocomplete. Okay, sweet. So now what's the key value? All right. So let's add a key and a value.
Key is abort. Okay, well, it was abort.
Well, you can do name.
You're gonna make one up. Okay.
Do name Jack. Name is Jack. So keys name and then value Jack. Can you do that?
All right. Well, okay. I think I see what you're saying. You're saying, so is it?
So $footer dot data, and then string name, comma string Jack. Oh no, just name in quotes, and then
single quotes. Okay.
comma Jack in quotes. Well, Anthony's back.
All right.
All right. So hit enter. And then now type in $footer dot data and then pass in name. So this should give you back the value of the name key. Name as a string. In quotes.
All right.
Yeah. So what you just did is you looked for $footer dot name and you passed in undefined. So we should get back Jack. Yeah. So what we're basically doing is we added a name property onto the footer, and then when you pass in one argument, you're grabbing that value exactly like
No,
objects.
that's great. You know, I actually had done some, but I hadn't done this to see that. So when you say $footer.data and you go to see what that's actually calling up the jQuery function.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so data.
Exactly. And
all right.
And then the last thing you want to do is you can do $0. Oh no, I guess. It will. If you look at $0, it should have like no trace of the name attribute or anything. I'm guessing. I actually don't really know, but expand it. It shouldn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think it. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing it doesn't.
Well,
it doesn't have, if you're saying the attribute data.
Well, you can also say.
You mean name?
Yeah. So you can also say $0 and then just hit dot, and you can see the properties on it.
Huh.
And then, I mean, there's not even a data attribute.
Correct.
And
let me tell you, I've been looking for data up and down all over the place.
Yeah. So and then to be double extra sure, you should look at the jQuery documentation to see if it does modify the elements at all. I don't think it does, but it could, I guess. But you'd have to look at the documentation to be sure. Right. So.
No, that's great. I guess
try $footer.dataset like Anthony is suggesting.
Data set?
Yeah. And then expand that. No, it doesn't look like there's anything there. Nope. So I honestly I don't know what data set is, but that was just I guess. Well, so if if I wanted to really know what was going on, I would just read the docs for the data function in jQuery.
Right.
Then you'll know exactly what it's doing. But yeah, but I mean, as far as I could tell, is that you can save data on it like this, and then but when you get it, you need to use the same function.
Yeah, and this is, it's interesting too. This is just for somebody else just to, what threw me, and this is the kind of stuff that happens a lot that throws me still at the stage that I'm at. When I looked at the, I'm sorry, let me get to the code. When I'm looking at the code and it sets data above in the edit key up function data, and then it says abort and true. I was thinking that abort was like some special command.
No.
I didn't realize you could set that to anything and stuff. So it took me a little while of working with it, and I did it kind of backwards, and I finally, I'm just looking up what is data in jQuery, and then, kind of clicked at that point. But I actually spent a fair amount of time going, looking up, trying to talk, how do I, how's abort working here? Just, oh, well.
So,
anyway.
So what I typically do in these cases is just play around with it, and you'll quickly see what's happening. So you'll notice that in 168 it's setting data, and then 183 it's getting data. It's hard to see in 183 it's getting data if you don't isolate the L data abort part. If you just look at the line 183 as a full line with the if statement, then you'll miss that. You'll miss the minute things of what's happening in that line. So you have to really break things up and look at the little pieces of what's going on.
Yeah, and by the way, that's the modified line that that's the correction to the.
Yeah, and then the other thing I often do is like in 159, I encourage everyone to do this. So if you scroll up in line 159, a lot of students will look at all the dots and start to feel like nervous, like what's going on. And so what you can do is just say, and this is related to what Eric was saying about training, is you can just save $e target to a variable and see what it's returning, and then you'll see it's the jQuery element, and then you can look at what closest is returning. You'll notice it's just the jQuery element, and so on and so on and so on. So then you realize that it just continues to return the same thing, and that's why you can call successive methods on it. But if you just look at line 159 as one piece, you're like, what the hell is going on? So that tactic is always a good one.
All right.
Break things up a little bit more.
All right, and then just one more follow up really quick on the same kind of related subject here. I know
Okay.
I'm probably running out of time here, but what I had done originally to try to resolve that initial issue of trying to be able to, have it not delete the record, destroy the record if it was an empty value there, was I was trying to embed the e.which equals escape key within the update function. And it would never work because when you went and ran it, and then you looked at what e.which was showing as, it wouldn't show as 27, which is the number of the escape key. It was just 0, and it obviously just wasn't working. And so I'm playing with it. I was able to at least figure out that you have to do a key up event, or even a key down event would work, but focus out that event. There's no identifier of what happens on the key. So even if escape works as a focus out event,
right,
it won't transmit that information to this function.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that makes that makes sense.
But I don't know how you know that. I mean, it's like I spent quite a bit of time going, why can't I get the e.which equals escape to work in the update function, and I finally, when I played around with the bind section.
Did you look at the docs for focus out?
I did, but I wasn't able to discern from that it wouldn't allow me to use e.which equals escape.
Okay. Let's see. So here again is what I would do. So sometimes the docs are underwhelming. Either it misses information, or it's so obtuse that it essentially doesn't have the information, even if it's there. But here you can see the properties, and you can see right away that the key that's hit is not there. It does show the event target losing focus, which is the element that's losing focus. So here's where you'd be able to tell. But let's say that the properties section did not exist. Oh, let me share my screen. I'm on the documentation page for focus out. Let's say that the properties table didn't exist and you didn't know that the element clicked is not the element clicked, or sorry, the key pressed is not available. What you can do is, what I would then do is I would just run an experiment, and an experiment that can answer that question. I would trigger a focus out event just like you did and hit different keys and see if there's any difference. And I guess you found that there's no difference, right?
Correct. Well,
And
no
then-
difference in that it still invoked the focus out event.
Right. So, but it's not going to tell you, like, you can hit different keys to trigger the focus out, but it doesn't really give you different information.
Correct.
Right. And then that's how you can verify with certainty that it's not going to give you that information. And then that's when you'd have to either, rethink how this works or look at perhaps a different, another method that's triggered by, like you said, key up or key down.
Right.
So yeah, so that's how I would do it. And it seems like you basically did that. But I think as you do it more often, these strategies for debugging will be more clear to you, and you'll just like immediately do it, and it'll be faster. So I think what you're going through is really good. Like, you should go through this process. It's the exact process that I went through, that I would go through, except that the steps in that process are not yet like second nature to you. So then it took you a little bit more time to think about what the next step is. So I think that's totally fine. And you ended up doing the right thing and you figured it out. So it's great.
Yeah, although I didn't do what you did, which was wrap that element in jQuery to dig a little deeper to see what was doing there. So that was actually, I learned something right there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, I was going to mention that too before, not to get off topic here, but that's kind of the other, earlier in the discussion, they were talking about being kind of amazed that nobody else teaches this debugger phenomenon and stuff. And, I've actually at some time earlier on, I just kind of Googled, Chrome developer tools, and there are some, tutorials out there and stuff that are put out there by the Chrome development team and stuff. But, doing something like what we just did and having somebody that's got, real hands-on experience, knows how to do this stuff and what you have to key in on and how you can use those developer tools, you're not going to get that from just some high-level, tutorial. You really have to see, in real world, here's what somebody would do to get to the answer and stuff. So that's a much better learning process.
Right. And it's really great to see you utilizing that. And like, I saw the way that I just said, put a breakpoint there and you knew exactly what to do. And that's awesome to see. I love seeing that. That's good. That's great.
Sounds good. Okay, well, that's really all I had.
Okay, cool. Good question. And I think even though maybe not everyone had that question or is in this part of the content, the strategies that Jack went through are like, you can absolutely do the same thing for everything. So, and it's not like unique to the situation. So I think there's something to get from that. Okay, so thank you, Jack. Good question.
Yep. Thanks.
And so next we'll do David. David?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Very good office hours. Lots of interesting conversations, especially on the learning modalities and things like that. So glad to join tonight.
Cool. Well, awesome. Next, I think was Russ. Russ, you there?
Let's see. Here we go. Gordon. Ooh. Hello. Gordon, can you hear me?
Yes, right now I can.
Oh, okay. I have no questions today. I just called in to listen and learn. And I'm really happy that I did. There was a lot of interesting information, very useful information that I picked up today. I have friends that are starting out as well. Just on a side note, and they're into Angular and React, and as much as I guess someone new to JavaScript can be, but I have decided I'm not going to get involved in those talks. I'm just going to do the watching code and let the Angular and React, when that comes, when you decide to introduce that, if you decide to introduce that, that's when I'll pick it up.
Well, I mean, to be really clear, I'm not against learning these new things. What? So this is Siren.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Can you mute for a second?
I'm going to mute it.
Okay. Yeah. So to be really clear, I'm not like against learning new things, and I'm not against frameworks and stuff. The only thing I am stressing is that you do it when it makes sense. That's it. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying do it when it makes sense. If you're a beginner, it doesn't make sense to do it at the beginning. Is my very strong take on it. So yeah, I think later on it might make sense. Like if your company is using a particular technology, you definitely need to learn it. Otherwise, you're not going to be doing much there for long. But at the beginning, like you really need to focus on the fundamentals. So yeah, I think what tends to happen, what I often think about is different tendencies that different people have. The tendency is to start working on frameworks too early. So that is the tendency in the industry. And the system pulls you towards that outcome. And so because it pulls you to like a suboptimal outcome, I feel like I need to stress that, don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. Do it when you need to, when it makes sense. So yeah, I think people sometimes get the wrong impression and think that I'm like a Luddite and don't want anyone to learn new things. It's not that at all. I just it's really just about valuing your time and doing things that you need to do. So yeah. So I think maybe I should say that at some point, because I think a lot of people do get the that reaction. They think that I'm like against new stuff. Yeah, cool. Russ, where are you with the material right now?
I am just finishing up the last module, the module, if you will, of Practical JavaScript 10.
I see. Cool. You're close.
I'm close. Yeah.
And how's it been so far? Is your style and formatting a little bit better now?
I don't know if it's that much better, but I'm trying. I'm paying more attention to it.
Cool. Yeah. So we for people that are wondering where that came from, it's because we were talking about that last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. But the takeaway is that like being consistent with your style actually helps you spot bugs and stuff. So yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it's just something you need to be just careful of. So it's not and you'll get better with over time. Especially when you're debugging and you're looking for an error, that's when you should be really on top of it and then look for the inconsistencies and stuff. Because it'll help you find the problem.
Great. So I will. Thanks a lot.
Okay, cool. Well, great work, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so next we have Anthony. Anthony?
Yeah, I'm just listening in. That's all.
Oh, what are you up to? I haven't seen you in like months.
I've been sending out resumes. I went on an interview like a couple days ago,
Mhm.
but no offers yet.
Are you are you are you still watching the videos and stuff?
No, I usually watch your live streams though, just to see where your students are, and sometimes it helps. Sometimes I'll see something I don't really have a firm grasp on still, and so I'll watch through.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I sort of gravitate to you guys on Mondays because Monday nights are slow, and I just watch. So I figured this time I'd get on.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Best of luck with the resumes and stuff.
Yeah.
If you stick around, we can chat more about it when we're off the air.
All right.
You want
Maybe
to?
you can take a look at my resume. It's not great.
All right. Okay. All right, so stick around. I'll take a look. All right. So last person is Jason, I think. Wait, is that the last person? Yes. Jason. Jason?
You there, Gordon?
Yep.
Hey, sorry, I was stepped away for a second.
No worries. What are you up to?
Oh, Jesus. Do we want to share their story in our office hours?
Okay. Yo, well, we can talk about it when we're off the air. I'll probably, since you're the last person, probably drop off soon. Did you have any questions, like content related questions?
I do not. If I did, I certainly would be prepared, but I'm not prepared to ask questions, so I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll chat in once we go off the air.
That'll work.
All right. So it looks like that's everyone that called in. I'll do one last check on the live stream and on Facebook, see if there are any other questions that I missed. So let's see. Checking Facebook now. No questions. Oh, so Marty O'Connor asked, here, I'll show you because this is hard to explain. So on the Facebook group, where I posted for office hours, he asked, did I see somewhere that you also have daily office hours? If so, is the subject matter or focus different than the weekly office hours? So we do have something that is daily, but it's not really office hours. It's similar. What it is it's only for premium members, but it's a daily meeting we have in the mornings to help you stay focused and not get distracted by stuff that doesn't matter. And so what the format is if you worked in tech before, it kind of mirrors the format of a stand-up meeting. You have 2 minutes to explain what you did yesterday, what you are going to do today, and then if you're stuck on anything. So you do that within 2 minutes. And then that's it. So it's super short. The meeting is maybe 15, 20 minutes total. And then the next day you come back and you hopefully did what you said you're going to do. And that social pressure, I think, is really helps people stay focused because it's embarrassing to come back and not do what you said you're going to do. So we have that Monday through Friday for premium members. And then at the end of when everyone gives their 2-minute updates, we then talk about if you are stuck on anything so you can get unstuck and keep going. So that is kind of like office hours. It's so, that part would be the office hours related, or it's similar to office hours. So that is how it's similar and different than weekly office hours. So yeah, that was Marty's question. So the YouTube live stream, let me check that. Someone said, I guess they're watching this. We've had a lot of discussions about jQuery. I guess so. The question was no need for jQuery, right? No. So I don't expect you to know any jQuery. The fact that it's jQuery is really irrelevant. The way I look at it is you need to know how to use different libraries. So that's a common one, and so you need to know how to use it. And a fun fact is, before I recorded the lessons on that go through the To Do MVC jQuery series in Premium, it's the first 5 videos in Premium, I had never used jQuery ever before. So you really don't need to be an expert in jQuery to read jQuery code, but you do need to be really good at debugging, like I did with Jack. So if you need to be able to do what Jack was doing, which I teach you how to do, and you need to be comfortable with documentation and being resourceful in general, and those are the requirements, and I focus on that stuff. So you don't need to know jQuery. Scotty asked, is there a way to view what's included in Premium? Yes, so on Watching Code, there's a link to Premium and you can look at it. But as I talked about with Faith earlier, it's not very well explained. So the problem with outlining a technical curriculum is that if you're just beginning, you won't know what any of the things mean. And so that's my fault. I'm sure there's a way to explain it, and I haven't done that yet. But there's an article that I think talks about the philosophy of how I created the curriculum that will be more useful for you. Ask that question. Scotty. So there's this article that'll be more useful for you. Pull it up. So if you go to this page, you can look at an interview I did that kind of explains the thinking behind the curriculum. And this is going to be more useful than any kind of technical thing that's listed, because this is what actually drives the decisions that I've made. So you can Google this or go directly to that URL. Other questions? Is there jQuery? I have no idea. I mean, jQuery is ES5. So, and I think when you learn libraries, you start to see you have a much better perspective on things, where you look at libraries as another part of the code, an extension of your application, and that comes from being able to read code. When you're not good at reading code, or you're not comfortable, or you haven't done it, which most people have never done, you treat code you didn't write as like a black box, and then but if you actually knew that you could just read the jQuery code, then you would know that this question doesn't really make any sense. jQuery is ES5 code that you just include in your application. There's no converting it to ES5 is not something that makes any sense. So comments, not really questions. All right, so that's it. Okay, cool. So everyone that joined, thanks for taking the time and joining. I hope that it was helpful. You can send me your feedback, things that you liked, especially things that you don't like. I'm very interested in that, to Gordon@watchingcode.com. And so that's it. So thanks for joining, and hope to see you next week. If you're interested in continuing the conversation after the end of office hours, I usually have like an off the air or casual conversation that's not broadcasted. So if you want to join that, you want to call into the Hangout, and we'll continue that conversation right now. If not, again, thanks for joining, and hope to see you next week.